What's up, guys? It's me, Donato Bay, and let's get into another chapter. First of all, I'm not dressed like this for the book. I just want to let you know it is, April 18th from the Appalachian Mountains in North Carolina, and it's like 40 degrees outside, and the wind is whipping, and it was like 80 degrees yesterday. So with that being said, we are going to get into chapter 11, the giant humans and the great Tatarians. Of course, I'm going to be reading from my notes due to copyright, so let's rock. Nothing mattered around here more than all this information I was receiving from Shiki Shikai. It was incredible just to imagine where I was and that a surviving gladiator who had also helped our ancestral humanity to survive was telling me in a great detail about the true human history. Shiki Shikai then continued, these men, animated with the vital energy of the source, begin to increase in numbers as well as in technology. First, they based their technology on race development and welfare, although later they came to develop defense weapons that they never reached the same custodial level. One fateful and dark night, the custodians penetrated the known lands and found abundant gold and other minerals. I told y'all we just used, this is all of this everybody just used. In their eagerness, they traveled through every point of these lands, arriving to discover outside the first dome, between a zone of high mountains, the famous lands of Asgard. And with them, they also collided with the humans living there. This group of custodians were surprised by light defense weapons, of course, because nobody's out there trying to just take over people but them, that attacked and automatically pulverized the enemy, igniting an alarm to other lands inhabited by humans. What was feared was really happening, and by then the energy of the celestial lands that animated bodies of human beings was not prepared to face them. Moreover, the custodians outnumbered the humans by 1,000 to 1. This is why we're not winning. And plus they play with time. Then a few days later, the inevitable happened. Humans surrendered to them. This was the beginning of a great nightmare that would last until until present day. But why didn't they behave as on other worlds, were looting as many minerals as they needed was enough to march on? Shiki says simple. They tried to send humans to the celestial lands. As a test, it was not strange to think so, since they had tried it also with other races. And although the human bodies burned as soon as they entered these lands, they noticed how this energy that lived inside them, us, always went directly to the celestial lands, no matter where this body met death. All right, y'all, let's get into these notes because, honey, y'all already know. Shiki Shikai continued to explain that the custodians and the Anunnaki have been studying human beings since ancient times, okay? The custodians / Anunnaki believe that through human beings being used as vehicles to enter the celestial lands. But once we died, they were not able to manipulate our souls. So basically, they would take a human, force them into whatever portal, the human would be gone, DOA, dead on arrival, and whatever energy that they felt out of it, they would try to manipulate that energy, I guess, to try to use it as like a key to get into the ancestral lands. Now, they, the custodians and Anunnaki, performed the ancient and cruel colonization ritual. They end up wiping out basically all the adults, like some children of the corn shit, okay? And all they kept was the newborn babies. Why, you ask? Because they were able to brainwash them. Hence why we're here today. And people like me that think different, excuse me. People like me that think different are told that we're crazy and we need to, whatever. But anyway, so they can brainwash them. Basically through education that would work in the custodian's way. Then us, the conditioned humans, were used to enter the celestial lands. Countless of us died senselessly. And that just makes me mad. So I'm going to read that again. They, us, conditioned the humans to make us think that we should enter the lands willfully. Okay? And countless numbers of us died senselessly. I got it out, okay? Senseless. Shiki stated also that the past reset led to the sacrifice of many humans put together. So instead of using 1 by 1, 2 by 2, baby, they probably did hundreds. Or how many there was, 70, 80, 100, 150, 250. Put them all together to try to manipulate the great energy. Guess what happened? It didn't work. So they continued doing their rituals. They created diseases. And they continued to do major destruction. All this was used, but nothing still worked to get to the source. They even tried resurrection of our bodies. And you wonder where that comes from, but I'm not about to get into that today. Shikai basically said they repeated these cruel things and these rituals in fear of what they seen inside of us, humans. What they seen was unique. A driven potential was inside of us to fight back one day. One day. Because of that, we are controlled. With resets, famous lies, and our education, shortened lives, created plagues, diseases, and misery, honey. Shikai goes on to explain that we humans are too important just to let go. Because the source, catch this, was inside of us. Also, it was keeping all the other worlds alive in the circles outside of the ice wall. So if something happens to us, it's a system. So whomever come from the celestial lands, whatever humans or those real humans, because who knows whose bloodline is real or not, okay? If any of those get wiped out, this whole system will crumble on top of whatever's outside of the ice walls, baby. Now let's get into these giants, honey. The giants stayed out of it. They were on the outside just looking in. But something changed. Don't know. They stepped in to finally help humanity. Some feel that they felt that if the source was to fall, then the 178 circle environments would fall as well. So I guess if it didn't affect anybody else, nobody would care. And that's kind of what happens on this planet as well, this realm. Nobody knows if the custodians tried using the giants of all races for the same fate as us humans went through, right? Like going into the celestial lands. The custodians. They end up losing interest in the humans after some time. I don't know why they weren't interested in the humans anymore. They believe that our energy or soul that comes out of our bodies that return to the celestial lands was not the same energy. And if it was, they could not figure out how to manipulate it. The Anunnaki, they were in a crisis. So while the custodians was like, we don't give a damn no more, F the humans, after we done reset them so many times, destroyed them, manipulate them, and now we're just all walking around fighting each other. But in a sense, it was conditioned that way. they are not thinking about their little friends over there called the Anunnaki. So the Anunnaki were in a crisis in their environment or their land. See, they needed resources of gold and minerals to survive, and that was slowly becoming non-existent. Okay? Now let's get back into this book. So now remember that they needed gold and minerals, the Anunnaki, okay, to continue to survive because they're going through a crisis, and the custodians don't give a damn. They don't give up, okay? So what to use then? Question mark, okay? They began to use the newly reset humans to be able to extract the gold from the harsh and deep terrestrial darkness. What better way than to make them believe that they were their gods? See, I keep trying to tell y'all this shit. And that they would have to worship in obedience to what they required. The period of creation of many of the known pyramids was carried out at this time by the humans themselves with the help of the custodial technology. These pyramids were nothing more than energy generating centers, which it has been proven, which served to control the humans. Bing, bing, and you think about the moon, some type of, I'm telling you. Ooh, let's read this again. These pyramids were nothing more than energy generating centers, which served to control the human and generate major destruction if they wanted to. They also tried to do this means to control souls again, and they failed anyway. The Anunnaki pyramids were deliberately spread over the known lands. Pyramids is a form of a warning of colonized lands, kind of like a warning for any intruder entering without permission. It was known that they feared that some colonized race, or what would be even worse for them, a race that would liberate the existing colonies, please hurry up, could exist and come from outside the known Great Dome. The custodians and Anunnaki begin to confront again, now for the control of the known lands. So they're coming together now for the known lands. The human being, and especially the large amount of gold found there. The giants took advantage of these inconveniences of the custodians and the Anunnaki to be able to enter the lands. Many moved from these same islands and from other lands, such as the Free Islands, and entered from the north and south of the walls, penetrating the existing domes. The walls surrounding the continents were built by the custodians in the past so that humans would not have the opportunity to reach the inner dome, or first dome. Since this discovery would expose the false of the theory that was preached without discussion, in addition to begin to question several fundamental points of life in the known lands. The possibility of infinite lands could never reach human minds, as this would open up the environment and awaken the thousands of living energies in human bodies that are numb to the knowledge of their past. Quickly, a great army of giants formed in Central Asia, and others began to mingle with the humans living there. Possibly the ancient giants knew of the source within each human being. Soon, these doubled in number, having a great and potent giant human resistance to the inevitable attack that would come from the custodians or Anunnaki, with their warfare would be seized. They continued to confront each other in battles that took place even in their own lands, thus leaving the control of the lands as a liberated zone. So they were winning, man. Or they won, I don't know. These were the boom years of the Great Tartaria. And then you think about the Tartarians in the mud flood. And the technology based on free energy. The Tesla. The control of the lands. I'm sorry, y'all. But everything's just starting to connect in my head. I'm going to start this over. I do apologize. These were the boom years of the Great Tartaria and the technology based on free energy. The control of the lands was almost total. Even inhabiting every corner of the lands, It is said that some custodians in Anunnaki saw their pyramids fall without being able to do much since they had to attend their own war. Little by little, they were losing the control that escaped them like water through their fingers. This last chapter got me, and it got me when I first read it. You got to think, if you know about the Tartarians, the mud flood, those were giants. Those were the buildings that the giants and us little humans lived in. Like, that was the world created. So they won. Whatever happened with that mud flood, or whatever they want to call it, destruction. I think that's how, I think the Anunnaki and the custodians and whoever else teamed up, right, came back, and now this is present day of us back stuck again. That is my cat. Y'all gonna have to get used to that. That is Lewis, and he's in his litter box. So this is getting good. Y'all know we're gonna be going to chapter 12 next, obviously, but I hope you guys are enjoying this book, y'all. This is a really good book. And just know, I read it once, and then I, of course, read it again because I need to make the video. So reading it over just puts it more and more in my mind, and I get excited every time. So yeah. So I hope you guys enjoy. I'll see you guys again. Please get the book if you haven't, but if not, just continue listening to me. I have a playlist that I put together. So if you're seeing this in the middle and you want to wait, just wait on it, and then you can just listen to it. Or watch me twice, and then you can just re-listen to it again, throw it in when you want to go to sleep. I don't know. But anyway, do not obey. Stay woke. Peace.